back. This is another pollinator thing. Today we have a very distinguished gentleman. He doesn't look it, but he is. He's relatively distinguished. Okay. This is a guy that's going to tell you about what it's like to actually take the step and come and own your own apple orchard. Okay, starting from basically nothing. Mike Pilarczyk, great friend. Hero of the working class, and now a freaking real estate guy. But you know, we'll forgive him that one sin. Okay, he's not an insurance agent, so we're good with that.
True.
Mike, great to have you, man. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you could see me today.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. So I got to sort of set the stage. So I don't remember how I came to know. I think you guys were like on the news or something. And so we're down here just north of Iowa City, and maybe 15 miles from here is a little town called Swisher. And I think I saw a thing in the news or in the newspaper or something about how this young couple had come to own the old orchard. What was the name of that?
Honey Creek Acres.
Was it? But before you owned it, was it?
It was called Honey Creek Orchard, I believe.
Oh, it was.
What
Okay.
It was called. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it was out of. Just you got to shut me up if you want me to kind of back up or stop.
No, I don't.
But we had got this just crazy thought that it would be really cool to own an apple orchard. I mean, I was a CPA, so every CPA wants to do something different. Yeah. They might not admit it, but no, I love being outside, love doing stuff, I love to like get my hands dirty. Sadly enough, running a chainsaw, I love it. It's just fun. I know. It's one of my many problems you're going to discover. Well, you already know. But so sent mail and made phone calls to I'm pretty sure every orchard between Des Moines and the Mississippi River. I'm not kidding you, man. Nothing came of it. I got home from work about a year after we did all this, and there's a message on my machine, and it was from the guy that owned Honey Creek Acres in Swisher. And ironically enough, it was about 3 miles from my house. I'm sending it to like places like 250 miles away. I'm like, oh, we're gonna move to what cheer? We're pick a small town, And anyways, the guy called me up, and so I called him about 7 o'clock at night when I got home, and he was like, you're interested in buying? Are you still? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And we talked about the price, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Next day, we were under contract.
What hallucinogenic materials were you under when you made this decision?
Paul, I can't admit to them in public, but believe me, no. I wasn't even drunk yet.
No shite.
I know. It was a completely sober decision, which really, after going through it all, really made me, realize that I should have made that decision drunk, But so anyways, yeah, we put that together. And that was like wintertime, and we closed in, I think it was about springtime, somewhere right in there. And I knew nothing. I knew nothing about an apple tree. Everybody that doesn't know me was like, you're crazy. Everybody that does know me knew I was crazy. So it was like, okay, well, cool. This is another Mike thing. So but we bought it, and I think we had about 30 acres of orchard, and in there, you remember those trees?
Baby,
so
yeah.
They had these standard, full-blown, old-fashioned trees.
Something like an oak tree, cut down slightly.
Pretty much an oak tree, and given the fact I'm afraid of heights, that worked out well, because they were all up there. But the guy that, Cyrus Cassiopo was the guy that ran that orchard.
Planted it, right?
He planted it. Yeah, a lot like Chug. Just salt of the earth, as good as it gets. I mean, the whole Cassiopo family, you won't find a better family. I mean, they're just tremendous human beings. And when we bought it, the guy, when we were on the phone before we were under contract, Bob Cassiopo, who's just another fantastic guy, he was Cyrus's son. He asked me what I wanted to do with it, and I'm like, I want to run an orchard. And he was like, sold. Because he didn't want it developed.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was kind of how it all got started, and then we took possession of it.
Or it took possession of you.
Yeah, I was possessed by something. We had an exorcism. Think I'm good. So we started, and I called up Iowa State. Talked to, I forget the guy's first name, O'Malley, I think is his. Patrick O'Malley, super guy. Gosh, so helpful. Iowa State. I hate him in football because I'm an Iowa grad, but they do some fantastic work. I mean, and Pat O'Malley has the patience of Job.
Yeah, he does.
If he can put up with me.
I think he's actually Job's brother.
I think he is. And super good guy, so helpful, got me started. He got me started on this, how like you do certain things and stuff like that about the bugs, and on kind of like a textbook level. Mm-hmm. The resource was great. Now I had to go apply it, which is, as you know, I really stumble when it comes to execution. And we started, man. I mean, we started by the orchard hadn't been mowed in probably a decade. Had a couple bugs in there. So it took us probably a year just to be able to get a tractor through the rows.
Well, when I first met you guys, so you and your wife, I remember clearly, mm-hmm. you were out there in those Red Delicious, kind of close to where you'd built your house, mm-hmm. and you guys were building monster big fire piles, and you were sweating. It was a hot day, and you were sweating, and you and your wife out there just working like crazy.
Yeah, it was the most work you could ever possibly imagine. The thing about this, and I'm sure there's other things similar to it, but one of my takeaways from it is you'll never be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're never like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go have a beer, sit on the deck and watch my apples grow and then count all my money in the fall. Yeah, so that realization came up and bitch slapped me immediately. The odd thing enough, though, Paul, it was like so satisfying. Kids were little. You know, they were with me all the time. I love being outside. You know, having a bonfire, that's something I do for entertainment. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm not a big world traveler or anything like that. So the little things, you know, just kind of spending time with the kids and stuff, that's a big deal to me. And so I was like, it's perfect, man. I can grind it out, you know. And then we had like our first season. And I mean, you know, you were at the Apple House and you were at my house and stuff, so you kind of know we stayed in that Apple House while we were building our house, and just the stories behind that could be could be a TV show on its own. Yeah, I remember killing a snake in the kids' bedroom. I didn't tell anyone about that because I would have had to buy a new house. Yes. So. Everybody, sorry about that. There was a snake in your house, yeah. Kids. Sorry. But it was things like that. I shot a mouse with a BB gun one time sitting on my couch watching TV. So fortunately, that only took about 120 days to get our house up. And I didn't sleep a lot because I was working on the house pretty much exclusively. Got it built. Then it was time to like actually open the doors up and
let the money just pour in.
Yeah. See, because what happened with me was the money actually poured out. So it was great because it's just the learning experience of everything. Like, you know, there are things that don't want apple trees to grow the way you want them to grow. Like, basically everything that lives outside. Yeah. You know, deer, you know,
bugs,
rabbits,
yeah.
Bugs. I mean, even
diseases.
Things that aren't like fungus. Yeah. I mean, you name it. And I learned
poison ivy.
Yeah, I learned all this the hard way. You know, fortunately, I had a great job to support my apple habit, and you know, so it was learning. So we started cutting the trees, and I think we were there not very long before I met you. I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah,
you think. And
I want to pause just a second to let everybody know that Mike is at this time. Has a full-time job. I mean, it's not like 30 acres of orchard is a part-time job. So he now has two full-time jobs, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My gosh, yeah. It you know, and as a CPA, you know, we put in some time. You know, those accountants, they work They work.
Do they?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot more than you gave me credit for.
Yeah, well, I'm still wondering about that part.
No, it's terrible, man. Yeah. I'm kidding. No, it was actually super clean, very easy, which was great. It's a wonderful contrast to running an apple orchard. So I was comfortable in the air conditioning, you know. I mean, I could go to lunch and eat clean, you know, with clean hands and everything. And but things really came up and hit me hard that first year as far as reality goes, because you know, and I'm more of a I never was the type, and maybe this is one of my problems is I never was a type where I want to know everything about everything before I start. Because what I've found in my life is if I wait to know everything, I will do nothing. And I find myself just thinking and planning, and there's zero execution, when in reality what you really need is all of those things. But without execution, I mean, there's nothing. So really, you know, that first year, I mean, we lost our ass. I mean, it was like I could have went to Vegas and I probably would have lost less, believe that or not, because I was a heavy drinker back then. And we went through, and then I started reaching out to you a little bit, and you were, if it wasn't for you, that would have been an 18-month operation for me, because I would have been. I'm not exaggerating, Paul. The help that you gave me was, I can't even tell you how important that was and how necessary, because we would have been cooked.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. Okay, so when you're in this business, the last thing you want to be is the only dumb son of a bitch out there doing it, right? So I was just like, there's somebody else here, and I can hang my hat on the fact that I'm not the only one, right?
Nope.
I'm not the only one putting all these hours in and watching, as you said, the money going way the wrong way, right?
Yeah, because it was like, you know, I mean, I had a job, and, you know, I wasn't making, you know, millions of dollars and everything, but I could keep the lights on, and, you know, I had a nice living and nice, you know, place for the kids to stay and stuff like that. But, you know, when you write a check for, you know, $12,000 for chemicals that you're going to use over, okay, that's a good one. Okay, trees, okay, there's 8,000 for trees that the deer are going to consume. Yeah. I'll find that out in 3 months. Hold on. Do that, you know. So it's like, man, this is.
Then you need a tractor.
The tractor is like, and then so when I bought the farm, I had this tractor. Never really understood the importance of a tractor until I had a gigantic piece of shit that didn't work. Then you realize how important it is. So yeah, I went out and bought a tractor, and you know, I learned just so many things about so many factors go into every single decision, like buying the tractor. The filters you put on it, do you have a cab on it, do they have the right horsepower on it, how big's your, I mean, just stuff I never would have known unless I would have either bought the wrong tractor, lost more money, or talked to a guy like you, and you know, you were there, you know, to help me and stuff like that. But I fought that tractor for a year or two, then got that other tractor, and then you know, at least when I bought the new tractor, and I bought it new, it was like, I can go out to that tractor and turn it on, and it goes. And I'm like, that's a huge win. I'm paying $800 a month on the tractor, but man, you know what? It works. Yeah. And I'm like, I'd come home. Sometimes I would just come home from work, and I'd go out there just to start it, just because I could, because the blue one required wires and stuff. And keep in mind, I'm an accountant. I don't know anything. I mean, I'm like, got a wire. I wonder what this does. Well, it didn't hurt it. So. But you know, then when I got the tractor, you know, throughout that whole time, you know, I was learning and mowing, because I had a big 10-foot mower, which I needed because the grass was yay tall, and you know, it was probably 3 or 4 years before we even could get up and down the rows and spray the trees.
Well, my endearing memory was talking to you and hearing you talk about, I mean, these are, so to the uninitiated, there's kind of different ways of growing apple trees. It's all based on the density of the plantings. And in the days of old, you planted standard trees, which is to say you take a seed, you plant it in the ground. When that apple tree comes up, you whack it off and you scab onto it, or you graft onto it as it is, the variety that you want, and up comes a big apple tree. It wants to be not an oak, but it wants to be a pretty big tree. And then we got into semi-dwarf trees, which are sort of half that size, and then dwarf trees, which are a quarter of that size. But Mike inherited this orchard of the big wannabe oak trees, right? And growing up alongside those oak trees is phenomenal growth of poison ivy. I mean, it was just that orchard grew such good poison. I mean, if you could figure out a way to market that, you'd have been a millionaire.
Yeah, that I don't know what that green vine is that has it looks like it's from a horror story. The viney rope with the black. Yeah, that was everywhere. Those feel good going into the back of your hand. Oh, real good. But we had weeds. If I could have sold weeds, I would be retired right now on a boat down in Florida. I'd be inviting you down, fishing, something. Yeah. But no, and that was just, once we were able to get up and down the rows, I'm not exaggerating. When I could get up and down the rows, I literally would just walk up and down, and I'm like, oh my God, I can walk. There's nothing's hitting me. This is great. I could almost spray the trees now, So then once we could get down, then we started working our way, and we're talking. I mean, well, you were there, we're talking years on those trees, and at the same time, we're trying to learn how to plant trees, because it's not like you go down to Earl May, you give them $80, you drop a tree in the ground, and boom, you got 100 apples on there that you're going to sell. It's just the rootstock. After I had spent time with you and Patrick, and we had some nice rolling hills. We had a quarter mile left to right on the orchard and about a half mile front to back, and I remember in some of those rows between the different types of soil, we had the same tree and 4 different types of roots because of the soil that it was in, And but do you remember when we did the deer fence?
Oh my God, yeah.
So I remember the first year, this is before I met you, spent $5,000 on trees, and if for those that don't buy apple trees in bulk, they come in 100 trees come in a box, from me, about 6 feet long, about that big. And it ironically weighs 9,000 pounds, but there's just the trees and the root. And so I got those, put them in the ground, and they were semi-dwarfs, And so we got those, put them in the ground. I bought an auger for the tractor, so we auger them out, put the tree in, backfill, go to the next one. Hope your auger doesn't break, And did that as we were going. And the first year, the deer had consumed $5,000 in apple trees within 2 to 3 weeks. I would say I had $5,000 worth of dowels sticking out of the ground every 15 feet. It was actually kind of cool to look at. I remember after that was the first time that I really asked myself, what the hell am I doing? I clearly don't know what I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I could, just blind Pollock bullheadedness, just, I don't care. I'm going to plant a tree. And so went a couple years, talked to the DNR, and understandably so, the DNR is protective of the, the wildlife and stuff like that, and which they should be. And we had to ultimately get a fence, and you and me were really, we were talking probably, every other day probably at that point. But remember we went and got those telephone poles down there in Lone Tree. So we planted those. I'll never forget this, because that was a project that left a. Even the voices in my head were distraught from that project, because I had 23 line poles, and a line pole is the pole that you pull the fence from. It's like the big pressure ones, and we bought, what were those, 18 feet?
They were long, yeah, I believe it.
Put half of it in the ground.
Yeah.
So just the fact of drilling a 9-foot hole 2 feet deep, just think about that, and it's And again, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I'm like, no problem. 23 holes, 9 feet deep, 2 feet wide. What could possibly go wrong? So, but the whole thing was just that day after day. And to be honest with you, Paul, I loved it, man. I loved that.
And that was clear, man, from day one. It was. I was just sitting back thinking, this guy is working so hard at this. Any day he's just going to snap and say, this is not going to work, right? Because the odds are stacked against you. You didn't have experience, and you had a farm that was really hilly with very old trees. I mean, obviously it had to be replaced, but you stuck at it. You did the right things, and it is just it was fun. It was fun even to watch, just because your enthusiasm was contagious. And I mean, it was a learning curve for me as well, just to watch and say, because I mean, I grew up in this business, so I sort of come in some ways crippled with, this is how it's done,
right.
And you don't do it this way. But you came into it. My dad always said, the best farmers are the ones didn't grow up on a farm, because they don't look at it like you got to do it this way. They come up with new solutions, and you did, man. You came up with some great stuff.
Oh God, if it wasn't for you, I don't know what I would have done. But I remember after we planted those trees and that first year, and just like literally 5 green, I would have been better to go down to Riverside, put it on black. I would have been better off. I mean, at least I had a 50-50 chance, because those things were doomed and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think one of the coolest things about it was what I learned from it. Not only about like running an orchard, but like everything, just life in general. It was cool. So
what'd you learn? What would you say to somebody that says, okay, yeah, I'm gonna quit the corporate life, or because a lot of people approach me about that, and it's like, I'd like to do this, I'm thinking about, giving up my job, or, some people say, I just want to come out here and work for you, or something like that. And you look at them and like, well, what have you done before? Well, I'm a school teacher, or I'm this, or professor, or something, mm-hmm. And you wonder, well, how's that going to work? But I mean, what would you tell them? What would you say to somebody that says, okay, I want to do this. My job's okay, but it's not me, or mm-hmm. it's not life, or it's not something. It's not filling everything I need filled.
Mm-hmm. I would say this. The first thing that I would say, I'd say I got 3 things to tell you. Number 1, go for it. You get one go around on this planet. Eventually, I don't know, an asteroid's going to hit. We're probably going to have earthquakes, and we're going to be covered with lava. No one's even going to know we were here. I don't know what's on the other side. I hope something good, I believe there's something good. But we're here, right now, probably about 80 to 100 years, hopefully. I'm kind of hoping for 105. I think I would look good at 105.
I kind of doubt that, but okay.
I'd be a good-looking centurion, I think.
Yeah, well, you already got the no hair thing going, so
I know. I'd save a lot of money on hair care products over that time. But so the first thing would be go for it. If you've thought it through and you want to do it, do it. The second thing would be try to accumulate as much knowledge as you possibly can before you spend a lot of money. That would be, and I would definitely, I would advise consulting Paul Rash on that, because there were times when I'd get home and I'd be like, I cannot believe this guy is helping me the way that you're helping. Seriously, Paul, I'm not kidding you. I'd get home and I'd be like, I'm dead if it's not for this guy. I would be so far behind. And you did it, and you'd call me up. Hey, how is that going? Did this work? Or what's it look like? And I'd be like, oh geez, I got this weird looking bug, and you tell me to send you a picture of it. I'm like, why is this guy helping me? And it's just like, you're just a good guy. So, I can't thank you enough. And
it was the Polish Relief Fund that kept pushing me to do this.
Yeah. Well, is there any funds left in that? As if there is, maybe I'll fire another one up. I don't know. But then the third thing would be those that you love and your family. Make sure that they're all on board with it, because you could fit into pinky finger what I know about running an orchard. And I ran that for 8 years, and I learned a lot, but it's going to impact your life a lot. And given like everybody, it was great at first for me because, we weren't, I wasn't a big partier, didn't travel a lot. I like staying at home and I like getting outside and I liked working. I liked being physical. I like that stuff. It's a full-time job, at least. And if you already have a full-time job, you're going to have 2 full-time jobs, and one of them's going to get away from you in a hurry if you don't. So I talk to your loved ones, talk to the people that are going to be impacted by your time and how you're going to be spending your time, and just work through that. And just make sure that the expectations are set from I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to spend some money. It's going to impact my family. If you can work through those and get those expectations out, that I think would be, that's what I would recommend you do. But, I definitely would go for it. I loved every second of it, man.
Well, another endearing memory was of your son, Mac. And, so you'd come home from your job as a CPA, and you'd have to jump on the tractor and do this, do that. Mm-hmm. And you had, Mac was what, like 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. And he's laying down. You said you put a pillow behind the tractor seat in a cab, and here's Mac sleeping at night as you go do your thing. And Mac's still working with you. I mean,
Yeah, Mac was there the whole time. In fact, that's what made it cool. Mac and Daisy and Jamie, they were there the whole time. And it was funny because when, it was great. And then when things started to, when the reality really hit, and this is what I was talking about, those 3 things, make sure you talk to your family and stuff. When they're there with you and everything like that, it's fantastic. But when they're all gone and it's midnight and you're sitting there, okay, what's the wind going to be like tonight? When's it going to rain again? And how many days do I have on the spray? And it's everyone's going to go to bed. And you're going to go spray trees. God, what the hell is wrong with me? Did you spike this thing, dude, or what? This is not me. It's weird. But it was cool. I didn't mind that. But when the kids get older, the thing is when they get keys to the car, that's when mowing 30 acres of grass loses its appeal.
It's not as exciting.
Yeah, because it's, I think that, your friends would say, oh, yeah, you got your kids until they're 18. You don't.
Yeah.
It's 16.
At best.
Yeah. Yep. So I was out there mowing, and I loved it. I still loved it. But I felt like I was missing out. Mm-hmm. So that's something that anyone that's going to do it, I think they really need to think about their life position now and in 5 years, 10 years, So,
I think that's so important because, a lot of people are, especially these days, there's a lot of tailwinds for local ag, right? I mean, there's a good market, and people have come to the realization. When I grew up, if you went to a local farm, it was for one reason: you're going to buy cheap, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to buy apples, they're going to be half the price of the grocery store. And people have come to believe and be willing, thank goodness, to say local stuff needs to be paid for, right? And it's not going to be cheap, but it'll be fresh and it'll be good, and I know where it's coming from, right? So that is a huge benefit, and it's drawing a lot of younger people into ag. A lot of them for CSAs, community supported agriculture, or they're vegetable. They're going to the farmers market and stuff like that. But it is so much work, and as you are saying, it's a lot of time. And I think people underestimate just the amount of time that's going to be. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is right, man. Check it out with your family or people that you're close to. Is this going to be cool?
Yeah. And then not only now, but in 5 years or 10 years, because, if you get into it and you invest, because it's, we invest a ton of money, and then it's like, well, geez, does this really fit with my life right now? Yeah. Maybe it doesn't. But, a funny story about that, and buying local and stuff, because I think we charged $2 a pound for apples, and we were at 50 cents a pound for pumpkins. We were pumpkins back there. It's another another little thing we threw into the swim. And I remember this is a story I tell people all the time. You know, because the stores, the Honeycrisp, but the stores were $3 a pound, and
Sure.
you know, some of those could have been up to 2 years old. You know, I don't think people really know like how that business really works, but some of those apples are over a year old. They're sitting in the store, and you know, every now and then people would come in and be, oh man, you know, you put a 10-pound basket of fruit up on your counter, and it's like, that's $20, and they'd be like, geez, oh man, $20, but. You know, and that happened occasionally, but for the most part, you know, it didn't happen very often. I had this one thing, it was the coolest thing. Somebody came up and put a big pumpkin on the thing and stuff like that. And the lady was upset because it was probably like $14-15, you know. And she's like, that's ridiculous and everything. And I know, you know, I never was like super confrontational or combative or defensive or anything like that. But I go, I will give you any pumpkin you want. I go, all you gotta do is just go back and pick it. I'll come back with me. Let's go get one. You can pick out any one you want. And she was like, okay. I'm like, well, let's go. And then the loppers were over in my barn, which about 100 yards from the house. I'm like, well, the loppers are over here, so let's go get those because we're gonna need those. Walk over there. And then I'm like, okay, let's go down the hill. And you remember my farm.
Yeah,
so you go down this hill. And it's
steep.
And it's probably, I'd say a good 200-300 yards downhill. And so we're walking down and, all the way up down there, in her defense, I mean, she was just, it was an expensive pumpkin. It was a big, pumpkin. And I get it. $15 is a lot of money for a pumpkin. But on our side of it, the amount of money, to me, that pumpkin was worth $1 million, and same thing with the basket of fruit. It's like a chair. People would set those things down and drop them in.
Yeah.
Like,
easy.
I treat them like better than my kids, But anyways, so we went down there and we're got back to our pumpkin fields down in the back there. And I was like, and I had 5 acres back there, which is kind of a lot, Here you go. And, pumpkins, they scratch you. And they're thorny and stuff. And she was like, what do I do? I'm like, go get your pumpkin. And I'm like, try and step on the vines if you can avoid it. It kills the plant and stuff like that. She went out and started going into the thing, and she's getting scratched by the stuff and everything like that. And I felt kind of bad. But I'm like, I'm not going to let her get scratched up and rashed out or anything like that. She's like, I found one. And I was like, okay, great, grab it. And she didn't have gloves on or anything like that. And I'm like, reach on that thing and grab it. And she's like, it's kind of thorny. I'm like, oh, you want some gloves? They're up there. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll come over and I'll get it for you. So I walk over there and I cut the thing. I just went over and I cut the stem, right? And I walked back out. Then walking, and I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, grab it, She grabbed this plant. She grabbed this giant Howden biggie. Oh. I mean, for those of you who don't, that's the big. These things are like 60-pound pumpkins. I mean, this thing I'd rather not carry one. Up a 300-yard hill. So she grabs it and she's getting filthy, dirty, and everything. And I felt kind of bad about that. But we go walking up the hill. She got from about here, maybe to about 20 feet away from here. She sits down. She's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry about what? And she's like, I'm sorry that I told you I thought your stuff was too expensive. And I'm like, no problem at all. So I grabbed the pumpkin and we go walking up the hill. I carried it for her and stuff like that. And but it was kind of a cool thing because it was growth for both of us. Yeah. So it was like, okay, this guy, and I was a CPA doing this on the side, and it was like what I don't think people know, and I didn't know, is the amount of work that goes into having an edible apple on a tree, or an unblemished or minorly blemished pumpkin on the ground, or pick anything. Yeah. Corn. I didn't farm corn or beans or anything. The work that farmers put into that would blow people's minds if they knew what that took.
Well, and it's not just the work, is it? I mean, just look at this year. We had a drought. We had a week where we got 7 inches of rain immediately following the drought. We had the derecho, we lost 500 apple trees and 30% of our crop. I mean, and that's just us. I mean, other orchards suffered worse. Other farms suffered worse. You just look at the amount of things that can go wrong in any given year. And I just don't think a lot of people appreciate just how, not just consumers, but also people that want to get into this, you need to be clear-eyed. There's some great value as a lifestyle, as a way to bring up a family, blah, blah, blah. But boy, it's a lot like work.
Absolutely.
And money, I don't know, for us anyways, has not rained down yet. I mean, we're still waiting for that flood, but it ain't happening.
Well, I sold it, sold the orchard, so you would know. But a story to that end is, that might be the fourth thing I would tell somebody. I would be prepared for the unexpected. Because there was I don't remember the year, gosh, it was early 2000s, somewhere in there. The crop was great, and the pace at which we broke even, and break even was good for us.
That was a win.
It was a win. I won't tell you the most we ever made in a year, but it didn't have 5 digits in front of it. I will tell you that. But we were off. I mean, this year, you had trained me up. I knew how to cut a tree. I knew how to spray the trees. I knew how to watch for bugs. I knew how to keep the weeds off my trees. I knew how to keep the deer off them. I knew, you had created a monster enough to know that I could kind of do it, but there's still like a million things you need to know. And like that particular year, I mean, we're putting in easily, 60-hour weeks on top of my job. The fruit was great. Trees were perfect. I mean, the fruit looks so good. This is no lie. We were going to open first day. So this would have been like August-ish, somewhere right in there. All those like Lure Reds and the early stuff, the Lodi's, all those things are ready, man. And I'm like, cool, we're going to fire this thing up and we're going to go. We're in the apple house, ready to open up the doors. Storm came through. We had 60-mile-an-hour winds come through about a half hour before we opened. And I'll bet you we had 50% of our fruit hit the ground.
Crazy.
And so it was like euphoric at 10:50 and catastrophic at 11:10.
Heading for the liquor cabinet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I was hitting the apple wine, man, after that. But that's the kind of thing that unpredictability, and that's ultimately what led me to ultimately sell. Just for me and my personal risk thing was, the kids weren't around as much, which kind of took the fun out of it for me, although I loved doing what I was doing. But the being at the mercy of the weather was one of the deal breakers for me, because like I know I'm going to make mistakes and I can learn from those and I can correct them and I can move on from those. What I can't do is I can't control the wind. I can't control the rain. I'm not even talking about you go and you put $1,800 worth of spray up on your trees and it rains 2 inches the following day. They didn't say it was coming, but it just popped up. Well, that's great, but now you're out $1,800. You got to do it again. So not only are you out the $1,800, but now you're out another 6.5 hours of your time. And most people, time is more important. Time is the biggest commodity that most people don't have.
Especially with a family, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as you said.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is watch it rain off, all your rally and, all your other, things that you put on that tree. So that was, that was something that was probably the biggest, kind of like not punch in the gut, but reality check. So the way that, the way for us, that it went is we were on pace to about, 2 to 3 years out of 10, we'd break even. The other years,
you were subsidizing it with,
it's an apple habit.
Yeah. It's a very expensive habit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
but also too, you couple that with the fact that I would get extremely jealous, because like, I don't know how you did it. It was like you're some sort of savant or something that knew everything about everything, because every single problem I had, you would incur the same problem, but you weathered it. And not only would you like I was hoping to survive, while I was hoping to survive, you would thrive.
Yeah, but it's a lot different when it's a full-time deal. You know, I mean, I really do think that to go into this and look at it as an adjunct full-time job makes things so much more difficult. I mean, because when you're out there during the day, you can see a lot more things. You can, you just get to really experience what's going on. Mm-hmm. Whereas you come home from work, I mean, for me, I don't even know how you did it. I always marveled at how you did it because, I mean, to come into it and say, come home at 4 or 5 o'clock and then have to, grab a quick bite to eat and go out there and, in the springtime, there's not much daylight left. So how are you going to know anything about what's going on in your orchard? Mm-hmm. You haven't had time to do any trap checking or any of the things that we need to know what's going on in the orchard. It's just unfathomable. And so, that's the big thing that to me always, it's the lesson that I've learned from watching you struggle with this as much as anything is just how extremely difficult it is to do this as another full-time job, and you had a young family. So it's really your third full-time job.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a balance. It's not easy to make that work. And it's not just you. I mean, there's lots of people that have struggled mightily with this. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're that good at it. It's just we happen to luck into the opportunity to do this full time. And when it's full time, you can make adjustments. You can plan ahead. It's not just your physical time. It's your mental time. It's being able to have the space up here to say, oh yeah, we can anticipate, what happens if we get too much rain, or what happens if we need to irrigate, or how do we get this deer fence up before we plant the trees, or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think you're downplaying your skill in this.
I don't know.
I think the mental space, we both know I'm limited there. I have my parents to thank for that. Thank you. And, I was always kind of like, I'm down for work. I love being physical, but I think you're downplaying what you do. I mean, you're great, man. I mean, you're the guy that's going to get 1.5 bushels or 2 bushels off a dwarf tree. You're that guy. I mean, if I got 8 apples, yeah, look at that. I got a basket full of fruit off of one tree, and you're getting so much more. And I was lucky that I had you, because if I didn't, that would have been, it would have been, I could have made a TV show, like a comedy, like seriously, and they wouldn't have needed like the canned laughter, because my neighbors would have made up for that. But no, and the cool thing, I would do it again in a second. Yeah. In fact, when I go, ultimately, I want to have a place down in Florida and a place up here, and I will plant some trees for me, just because I did love it. I loved every second of it, and it taught you so much about life and work and everything.
And yourself, yeah. It is. It's good that way.
It's great.
Well, yeah. Or you can just buy this place, and then it's.
Well, I haven't won the lottery yet, so I've seen the cars that you've got out there, and that was another thing too. It's like just the mental, the being able to get up in the morning and see it, because like a busy day for us when we were going, like when we were at our peak, a busy day for us, I'd have 100 cars there. I'd come out, and then on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, it'd be like 3. I knew everybody's name, that was there. And, you come out here on a Tuesday and you got a guy helping people park cars because you're too busy. It was like Kinnick Stadium out here. I'm like, my God, I want that. I want to be like that, and it was cool because you made my game, as pathetic as it was, you made it a lot better, because it was always like, I'm going to be like that guy. I want to be that.
So what's going on now? What's Mike doing?
Real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, real estate. So I had a great job. You know, I had a great career as a CPA, and but I knew I needed to do something different because, you know, when the orchard, you know, when I decided to sell that, and, you know, the kids, you know, got busy, and I didn't feel like, you know, I just didn't have it. I just didn't feel like doing it. You know, I was sitting there, I had a great job, and, you know, I'm not the type to sit in a cube, and I did, and I was like, man, I got a great job. People work their lives for this job. Why am I so unhappy? You know, why? What's the deal? I should be happy as hell, you know, and I wasn't. So kind of just did some soul searching and to figure out, hey, what do I want to do with me, you know, my life, what, you know, and I wanted to be in control of everything. Like, if I make it, it's me. If I fail, it's me. And I just didn't want to go to the same place every day. So I started making a list, you know, what fits, you know, this, because, you know, that's a big change, changing your career. That's all I knew was accounting. I mean, you know, but it was weird because at the end of the day, I get done, and the only my impact on the world were numbers in those two columns were different. That was it. And it was hard sometimes to, like, that's my mark on the world. Like, there's no building standing. There's no, you know, new road there. Is just this number is 9 instead of an 8. And it kind of screws with your head a little bit. So it's like, I really love the tangible, like, this happened because of me. And with real estate, it's like, you know, I can control my own business. I mean, I can elect to do what I want whenever I want, and if I'm great, I will be rewarded for it, and if I'm bad, then I'll be rewarded for it. And that's the way it should be, I think. And it's cool because I have an element of the tangible, not as much as the apple farm, but it's like, it's cool when you help somebody find the place that they're looking for, and they thought they couldn't get into it, and you help them get in. That's cool. It's a different type of thing, but it's still kind of similar in terms of you know, your mindset and your approach to it. You know, it's like, I loved it when I would see little kids come up and pop a basket of fruit on. They're happy.
Yeah. This is a feel-good business. Yeah, it is a feel-good business.
It's cool. Everybody's in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's neat.
And now you got Mac. I mean, he's not riding behind you in a tractor, but he's right alongside you in the business.
Yep. Mac, I work with Mac, and he's doing great. Daisy's in med school.
Yeah?
Yep, she's going to graduate this year. She'll start a residency. Jamie is, she's a junior at Prairie. We're still trying to figure out what she's going to do, but I'm sure it'll be great. If she's watching this, it'll be great. Keep going to school, Jay. But no, I'm really blessed, man. I'm like so happy with like where I'm at in life, and like, you know, I get to work with Mac, and you know, my kids are around. It's cool, man.
Yeah. Yep. That is fantastic.
Yep.
Well, cheers, man. It's great having you, and
thanks for having me.
all the best.
Yep. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for watching or listening or whatever the heck you're doing. I mean, you may be sitting at home with a Jameson, which is smart. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll probably catch you another time, hopefully. All the best.